that there, the 5 laws, it wasn't until I was 46, holy crap, 46, working with a coach too, that I got these 5 laws right. And when you get it right, you're not as impulsive. You do your best work. Your mood becomes stable. Your energy becomes stable. And you just feel so much better. Up there on screen. Do you see that? I learned this back in January 2018 from Dr. Rhonda Patrick, PhD. She did a presentation on YouTube, and this blew me away. Can just look at what serotonin is responsible for. Let me walk you through it. When we don't optimize serotonin, actually listen carefully to this. It's not about increasing serotonin. If we have too much of it, the same dysfunction occurs. We have to optimize it, along with a few other things, and I'll show you exactly what that is towards the end. But do you see what's happening here? Our social behaviour goes to shit. We snap at our friends and our family and our kids. And executive functioning goes. So we put out really crap work, and ironically we think it's us, that we suck. No, we're missing out. Our performance can be so much better. The 5 laws is all you need to do to get this right. And we become very impulsive, right? You see that there? We become very moody. Our appetite control goes to shit. If this is happening to you, you can fix this with these 5 laws I'm about to share with you. I was 46 until I got this right, and it changed everything for me, but I had to work with a coach, and I'm going to share it with you here today. So without further ado, I'm going to do that. Okay, so we're going to get into law number 1 right now. So here is the blueprint. I'll walk you through it. And at the end, I'll show you what else we need to do. There's 5 more things to get this right. But what we want to try and achieve here, and you can, this is what my coach helped me with. So instead of gaining this crap, we lose it. And instead of losing this, we gain it, and we have it with consistency when we get these 5 laws right. These 5 laws here. Okay, so law number 1. Tryptophan is a precursor to serotonin. It has to come in through the diet. Now, tryptophan has a lot of fates in our body. And this is where a lot of people get it wrong. We don't want to increase serotonin. We just don't want it too high or too low. We want to optimize it. And then when you optimize it, you'll do your best work. You won't be impulsive. Your appetite will be on point. You'll have consistent moods, executive functioning. You'll do your best work. You'll stay focused. And you won't have this shit here to contend with, anxiety and aggression. So we have to make sure that we've got adequate levels of tryptophan and that it's actually going to the brain to be converted into serotonin. Now that brings me to law number 2. Now, to actually create serotonin when tryptophan enters the brain, it has to have optimal cofactors, vitamins and minerals, to allow that to happen. And if it doesn't, it won't happen. It's just like you haven't got enough, you've ran out of fuel in your car. It's not going to do any work. So we have to make sure that we've got adequate vitamins and minerals to make this work. Vitamin D plays a big part in that. Now, just a few questions before we move on into law number 3. Just point 1, point 2, and point 4 here. Do you have optimal levels of vitamin D? And did you know that the current RDI for vitamin D is well below what the importantly new scientific research from the top scientific minds on the planet, the PhDs, say is optimal? And are you aware that there are synthetic vitamins that are in the food supply now that the government fortify our foods with, like cereals and things like that? So if you give them to your kids, they're at a massive disadvantage because because they block key genes in the pathway of creating neurotransmitters, not just serotonin, but dopamine as well, acetylcholine and things like that. So I'll put this together at the end of this, but here we go. So we have to make sure that we got adequate vitamins and minerals to turn tryptophan into this serotonin, so this is on point. Now, that brings me to law number 3. We have to put tryptophan on a boat, okay? And apparently, evolution says that there are much more important amino acids than just tryptophan. So if you've got too many other amino acids, tryptophan doesn't get a seat in this boat. I guess it's kind of like the last scene in Titanic where Jack doesn't get a seat in the boat, right? So tryptophan doesn't get to do its function in the brain. So we have to make sure that we're not stupid enough to do things like this. This research paper here. So they have this new research from the top minds on the planet have shown that if you take a bolus, a lot of an amino acid, about 5 hours later, this is what happens. We gain aggression and anxiety, and we lose social behaviour. The worstness comes out. You know, I've been through this. I don't need to go through it again. And there's many different ways that this occurs. Another research paper here. You know, nature provides everything to us in the right ratios. Man, over the last 50 years, through, I guess, the supplement industry, is arrogant enough to think that we can outsmart nature. No, we can't. This research paper here, you see, if you give a precursor to neurotransmitters like L-tyrosine or L-dopa, it depletes serotonin. So it crashes serotonin. So the worst of this comes out, we do crap work. Now, the same is true if we have the precursor to serotonin, L-tryptophan, or 5-HTP. It depletes dopamine. Now, dopamine and serotonin work together. Dopamine energizes the brain and helps you focus as well. So we have to have both these at optimal levels throughout the day. Now, to show you how important nutrition and vitamins and minerals are, if we have too many sulfur-containing amino acids, that's a problem, a big problem, because it depletes both serotonin and dopamine, so the brain is never energized. And you know what happens when serotonin goes to shit. That's not a fun experience. Remember, we gain aggression and anxiety, and the worst this comes out, we become very impulsive. So these sulfur-containing amino acids require molybdenum and B1 to eliminate them, to remove this sulfur, so you can get this back in the butter zone. Does that make sense? But in the process, it makes something called hydrogen peroxide. So you need glutathione and or superoxide dismutase to neutralize that hydrogen peroxide. Otherwise, you're going to cause inflammation. And as you'll find out soon, that's not a good thing in this scenario. So this is another research paper here that just shows you, I'll just bring it up bigger. Administration of serotonin or dopamine precursors should never involve administration of only one amino acid. You don't need to do any of it, all right? That's the beautiful thing. You don't have to do any of this. Waste your money on supplements. You just have to get these 5 laws right. Now, we've covered the boat. We have to make sure that we have everything on point so serotonin has an opportunity to cross the blood-brain barrier, or tryptophan, and then turn into serotonin. So, to recap, we need the precursor, tryptophan. We need to make sure that we've got enough vitamins and minerals to make that happen, and we've got to make sure that we're not silly enough, like I used to be, taking these supplements and trying to trick nature, right? Because tryptophan won't get on the boat, and that's a big problem. Now, Number 4, this is potentially the worst thing of all. That's why I've got it highlighted in red. If you get this law wrong, it's not going to be fun. So, tryptophan is converted into serotonin, as we know. It happens in the body, the periphery, at about 90%, but serotonin does not cross the blood-brain barrier because there'd be way too much, and too much ain't good. And 10% is converted into serotonin in the brain. That's a perfect world, right? Now, if we have cellular stress, or if we open up our credit card bill and we're like, oh shit, how am I going to pay this off? Or we're cut off in traffic, or we don't get caramel in our latte from Starbucks and that pisses us off, you produce cortisol. Now let me show you the problem with that. This is called the tryptophan steal. This is law number 4. This is the worst one of all. This is the worst one of all. So tryptophan here, it has another fate. It comes down the stress pathway. You've got 2 enzymes here, IDO and TDO. Now, this TDO is for high cortisol. So if you're having, if you're worried about your credit card bill or that dude cutting you off in traffic, tryptophan will come down this pathway and be created into something called kynurenine. A mineral imbalance will cause this too. If you have low sodium, that is a stress response. Cortisol goes up, and tryptophan comes down this pathway into kynurenine. Now over this side, the IDO, if you have low-grade inflammation, and it's been shown in the research that if you have a high omega-6 to 3 ratio, you have constant low-grade inflammation, and your tryptophan is always coming down this pathway, so you can never be focused. You can never be on point. If you've got AGEs or ALEs or mycotoxins coming into the system, that's inflammation. As cell stress, tryptophan comes down here. So we have to remove this cell stress and work a little bit on our mindset, which isn't difficult to do at all. So, as you can see, I'll just quickly go back over everything. Actually, wrong, this one here. These five laws. If we got adequate precursors, tryptophan, we have the potential of creating serotonin. Number 2, to make tryptophan turn into serotonin, we require adequate vitamins and minerals. We also need to make sure that we don't oversupply other amino acids, so tryptophan can actually get on the boat, cross the blood-brain barrier and turn into tryptophan. And then, the most important thing, we have to make sure that we don't have cellular stress, or we're worried about a damn credit card bill, because that's going to crush our ability to think. Our social behaviour, impulse control, we make bad decisions, all goes to shit. Now, when serotonin is actually made in the brain, we've got all these 4 things on point. We also need to optimize dopamine. This is elite results. We also need to have something that scientists call trophic support. When you have trophic support, your brain is thriving. It's in a growth response. It has resources. It has things like BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor, which is like miracle grow for the brain. So you'll read that book, you'll comprehend it, and you'll encode it into memories at a much faster rate. And you've got to have the clamps off this cell stress. As I mentioned before, just 2 things quickly now. Number 1, if you've got a high omega-6 to 3 ratio, and the best that the government nutritional guidelines can get anyone at is 16 to 1. And most people are higher than that. And the new research says that we have to get it back to a ratio of 1 to 1 or at worst 4 to 1. Do you see how far that is from where the current mainstream government guidelines are? So what I want to suggest to you is this. You don't want to get left behind, as I was. I was 46. I had to work with a coach until I got this right. The government are over here, the laggards. The innovators are publishing this research right now. The PhDs, the top scientific minds on the planet. You have to, as I did, become an early adopter right here. And what it means is profound. Instead of living over here in a cortisol dominant metabolism where it's struggle and you do your worst work, you can move over here. You can perform. You can do your best work. Now, my coach said to me that if I was having any more than a couple of bad days, now listen carefully to this, a month, then I was doing something wrong. Now, those 5 laws will get you a long way there, okay? So the 4th thing you have to do is get something on point. This is a very profound one as well. It's called the growth index for a stress response. And if you want to learn more about any of these things, how to get dopamine on point, how to achieve trophic support, how to get the clamps off this cell stress, this chronic low-grade inflammation, and increase the growth index to a stress response. Now, the military have a vested interest in this because it predicts academic and physical performance. So if you want to learn how to do all that, reach out to me, or maybe there's some information below this in the caption, whether you're on YouTube, whether you're on Facebook, or whether you're on IGTV. All right, so that's it. That's all I've got for today. Thumbs up, I'd love it. And again, if you want any more information, reach out to me.